Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield with Manny Things, and welcome to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the show where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you enjoy this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Things. Without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast where I talk with whoever I want to in the shooting industry. But first, we got to talk about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Go Fast, Don't Suck. Go over and check Bill out for all your dry fire target needs, your funny memes, your hats. He didn't make this hat, though, so don't worry. You can't get that one from him. But anyway, go check out Bill at gofastdon'tsuck.net and tell him Manny sent you, and he might throw a laugh at you. I don't know. But without further ado, let's get to today's guest. Today we have Mr. Matt Nash on. Matt, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Thank you for coming on. It's been one of the making. We've been making this work, so we'll get jiggy with it. But I know a little bit about you, but for the listener who might not know who you are, go ahead and tell them who you are.
My name is Matt Nash. I'm originally from Ohio, although I spent now almost the majority of my life living here in Virginia. Started here in Virginia when I joined the Marine Corps, pre 9/11. Kind of stayed here after the Marines, joined federal law enforcement, been doing that ever since. Got into USPSA, kind of looking to augment some of my law enforcement training just to kind of get it up to the same standards I had in the military. And then the competitive side kind of clicked over. I've always been into sports and very athletic. So it wasn't too long in USPSA when I decided to let's see how far I can make this happen and see if I can make a run for either a national title or seeing if I can represent, the best at the World Shoot or something like that. And that's kind of like where I'm at, although I'm starting to have a little bit of vision with my 2-year-old. He loves watching me dry fire and has to set up his own targets from Go Fast, Don't Suck on the walls. And now my gears are starting to switch a little bit to thinking about one day doing this with him and those joys. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
Mm-hmm. Now, Matt, how long have you been competing?
So I started in, I think, 2014, but I don't think I had a very big year. I think that was I learned about it and kind of by the time you get kind of settled in. So 15 was really my first year. So was that like 7 years or something like that? Mm-hmm. So I've been doing it a while. I think that's a while. I'm a life member, so I hope to be doing it a lot longer than 7.
Well, funny fact is probably next week I'll be purchasing my life membership because why not? Just here's my money. Don't kick me out.
Good for you.
Yeah,
it's a good deal if you really love it and you foresee yourself doing it. It's probably a really good deal to do a life membership. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with the year or 3 years, but I like getting the magazine and I was the one that was I think the first couple years I did like 1 and then 3 years. And then after the third year, I was like, this doesn't even make sense. I never see myself not doing this. It just depends on how competitive I'm going to take it. Mm-hmm. The real question I have now is when do I get my son's life membership? I thought it would be pretty cool to get it now. And then when he's my age, everyone's like, how'd you get that number?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, he'd be the youngest life member?
The youngest. I would ask for that data point if I do purchase it here soon, if he's the youngest life member. That would be kind of cool for him. Gotta get the Williams sisters on something, right?
Right, yeah.
It's going to be hard to get youngest GM, but we'll make a run at it.
I mean, we could. You never know.
Yeah.
But that's true. Now, Matt, have besides your career training, have you taken any instruction in competitive shooting?
So yes, so both unpaid and paid, and I'm actually very blessed to have some great mentors. So Ron Francisco, as I've said, I think on some of these forums, was pretty much my first mentor. I trusted him a lot. He's a retired federal Leo now, or law enforcement officer now, and a really good competitor. Been doing it a long time. His nickname's the Rocket for a reason. So I kind of went to him to kind of benchmark what it would take to compete with the best. And I figured he would have that insight. His wife is a world champion. And in doing so, I really learned some of the early on habits of how much I was going to have to practice, what I needed to practice, and some of those value points. And he's really helped me along the way, and he's been a supporter. On the formal side, I did take Mason Lane's class a few years ago when he was augmenting at the SIG Academy. I took that because I had a deficiency in movement. I was very athletic and fast, but I don't think I was very efficient. And he really helped me shape a movement game where I could leverage my athleticism, but not also waste some of that in inefficiencies. So it's not about how fast you can get to A and B if you're not breaking that shot for a while because you're dumping so much energy, things like that. So I really pulled from him, and I felt like, he has a little bit of different movement style just because of his length, but he's very efficient, and I really capitalized on that class a lot. He's become a good friend, and I've been getting mentorship from him for many years thereafter. And we just got back from Puerto Rico, and it was great because I had him pretty much on my side as a coach there. But it's the community. The best formal training in USPSA is just going out to your local matches and meeting shooters and seeing what they do firsthand, talking to them. And people in this community that I have found just share so much information, right? Even so much that a lot of my firearms instructors back in my academy asked about the community, and I brought them into the community, and they learned a lot, and they took those skills back to law enforcement to make them better, which ironically in return makes the community safer, right? If we have better performing law enforcement officers. So, honestly, I could have taken all the training I did outside of USPSA, and it would not have made me the competitor I am today if I didn't have all my friends and all the supporters and even people I don't know come up and help me along the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I will agree. The community kind of makes this the sport that it really is. It's other than just the rule set we have, it's definitely the friendships and bonds and the community we make it worth coming back every month or every weekend to go shoot a local.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now, did you start in production or did you start in some other division?
So I did. I started in production, and I pretty much, that has been my division. I dibble-dabbled in limited, dibble-dabbled in carry optics. I'm probably ready to go to switch to carry optics once this world shoot happens. And I dibble-dabbled a little bit in open. But when I say dibble-dabble, like a couple matches and a couple practice sessions, not even a dent into how much time I put into production. And that's because, I do a lot of things to really hone in my law enforcement skills, and I carry iron sights in law enforcement. I carry it off duty. So I still have that defensive DNA that I bring in. I do believe, for instance, I've said this before, I believe I like bullets out mag pouches, particularly in production. I get a little bit more reliable grip on it, especially when you get back to that third, fourth, and fifth pouch. Really like it for single stack, but I won't do it because I don't carry them that way on duty. And I don't want to build different habits. So I try to really mesh the two the best I can, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. Definitely, for sure. But it's interesting. Most production shooters do like bullets out because you said they get more
I would
room,
too. Yeah. If it was strictly a sport, I would probably do bullets out. Like I said, it's more about consistency. I can load just as fast with bullets forward, even in any pouch. I just find when I get to those back pouches, my consistency drops a little bit, and I have to work harder at it. And that time could be spent elsewhere. So if I can improve efficiencies in my training and then I can focus on some weaknesses, I rather go that route. So like I said, both are effective. I feel like I tend to spend more time with bullets forward.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I like bullets forward, but that's just me.
But who doesn't like doing reloads in dry fire, right?
I mean, everybody likes doing reloads in dry fire, especially stationary reloads in dry fire, because that's all we do, right?
I know you don't get to see the slide move on the gun, so you got to have some kind of mechanics. You got to slam something.
Yeah. But no one practices like slide lock reloads. Wait, maybe single stack shooters? Is that half the game plan? Shoot 9 at the array? That's okay. But after looking through your website, it kind of seems like you've gone through progression of guns in production. Saw like some Tanfo and then some CZ now.
Yeah, so I started with the Glock because that's, it was a cheap way to get into the sport, and actually it's a really good gun. You know, my advice to a lot of people would be like, and people have asked me like, do you really like the Shadow 2? And I think there's a lot of common good advice on gun selection, and the first and foremost in this sport is reliability. As I just experienced for a knucklehead move in Puerto Rico, I didn't clean my extractors on my backup gun. So my primary gun was a Shadow 2 Orange, and when I was changing out the fiber, I nicked the front sight post. So I had to go to my backup gun. So rule number one, don't change things out the night before a match. I should have done that a long time ago, changed out my fiber. And then, so I go to my backup gun. I forgot to clean the extractor. It's an early match in the year, and I didn't reset my guns for next season. One of the things I do is I always clean out my extractors, really, punch them out and clean them out. Sometimes I'll even change them out. And with all the rain, it got gummy, and I had 2 double feeds, and 5-6 seconds to clean something like that in a stage just crushes you. I think I lost like 40 to 50, maybe even 60 points on those 2 stages. And that's enough when you're going up against really good shooters. So, reliability is utmost. So that's been my standard. Then grip. And that's why I switched. So I started with the Tanfo, kind of happens. Well, actually I started with CZ. After the Glock, I went right to CZ Target, SP01, which was my favorite gun still to this day. And my good friend, Dave Wampler, also had a CZ. And I said, I'm going to buy this Tanfolio just to see, what the hype's about, see the comparisons, see what's good. So I got one. But I didn't like taking 2 belts and 2 sets of magazines to every match. So Dave and I came with it. He's like, why don't you get another Tanfo and I'll buy your CZ off you? And that's just kind of how the chips fell. Looking back, I kind of wish I kept my CZ, but the Tanfo was good to me. The only reason I eventually left Tanfolio is my guns were getting pretty old. So I was having to do a big refresh, buy 2 or 3 more guns. And I never really liked how much I had to move my hand because I have a little bit average to smaller hands. And Tanfo sells their guns with 2 lower frames, a large frame and a small frame. And you can't get the small frame that well here stateside. So the large frame I had during reloads to shift my hand very drastically. And what I notice is on very fast reloads coming into a position, sometimes my shooting hand on the gun, my gun hand would not be perfectly set up. And either 2 things would happen. I would be adjusting it as I'm engaging a target. So, if it's a closed target or open target, I can maneuver it and to get it perfect. Or I would slow down on trigger pull to compensate on a bad grip or less than ideal grip. And I didn't like that. And what I found with the CZs, Shadows, is it's a smaller frame. I can source the parts, and my shooting hand wasn't moving as much during reloads. And what I've seen is I have a more consistent grip coming in off reloads into position, and that advantaged me. So reliability first, grip second. Those are like the 2 things I look for in a gun. The only downside to the Shadow 2 that I've had to really compensate for is with that tri-top. When you're coming over the nose to do an unloaded start and rack, with the tri-top, you have to pinch a little bit harder. Whereas the Tanfo with a rounded, you're able to find that edge of the serrations coming over the top. And, in the beginning, I used to come in so aggressive on the Shadow 2, the front sight post would rake my hand when I would like pull it back, and I would have like a cut on my hand. I've kind of learned it. I just had to practice it a lot. And that pinch, that's the one thing I probably would like more of a rounded top over the tri-top, but I get the weight savings that they were going for. Mm-hmm. But I like what Hopkins did with the new CZ. I don't know if you saw it, their competition polymer one. I think it's like the FC or something like that.
Yep.
He took the serrations on the side, and then when he tri-topped it, he also moved the serrations up the tri-top. And I'm like, oh, that fixes the problem. So now I want to get someone to mill serrations into my tri-tops of my Shadow 2s. I just don't know if that's IPSC legal, so I probably won't.
Oh yeah, because you're going to the World Shoot. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's gotta be a pain. Go ahead.
We'll see. But so I really like the CZs. I don't know, it's a kind of a funny point, but my family's from Czech. So I shot the Extreme Euro, and all the guys over there, we got to shoot with some of the Czech guys on the Alien team at the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm still good friends with them. I still talk to them on a daily basis. Well, maybe not daily, but pretty often. And it's kind of cool to have some of that DNA tied to CZ and Czech. So yeah, I probably won't ever switch off of them. There are things about the Tanfoglio. They were really good to me. I really like EEA. Paul, the owner of EEA, was really good to the shooting community and shooters. So I have nothing bad to say about them. It really came down to a little bit slight personal preference. And the CZ team's been really good to me too. They've been very supportive. For instance, in Puerto Rico, we had Jared Fox there with CZ. He noticed that I was having problems with the extractor. The second time, he's like, let's go fix this. And we punched it out right there with his tool set, cleaned it up, fixed it, got me running. And I had really good stages right after that. So it was nice to finish on a high note, right?
Mm-hmm. So Jared doesn't always look grumpy?
No. He doesn't. An interesting point, I learned something about the Shadow 2 oranges. And mm-hmm. The Shadow 2 oranges front sight posts are made out of aluminum. Why the Europeans did that, I have no idea, but that's why I damaged it a little bit easier, obviously, because I said I always change out my fire optics on my other, which are just regular Shadow 2s all the time. I never had this happen. And I'm like, I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't drop it or anything. It was just, I usually cut off the back of the fiber, push it a little bit, and I take nail clippers and I just bite the front end and pull it out. Mm-hmm. And I guess when I bit it, I scraped the front sight post and made it like shiny aluminum, but that makes sense. The steel probably can handle some air like that, whereas the aluminum just pretty much scraped the heck out of it. So I'm going to try and get Dawson to make the size that I like. I like the factory size. Mm-hmm. Right now, I think he only makes a 100. So I'm going to see if he'll make a 115 or 120. We'll see.
There you go. He probably will. If not, maybe just go get yourself a regular Shadow 2 front sight. And
well, I can't. They're different. So the Shadow 2 front sight on the oranges, because they have the bushing, they slide in and then have a screw point. Whereas the other Shadow 2s use a pin and a punch. So I can't. That would have been a simple solution. So yeah, crazy. And there's not a lot of Shadow 2 oranges out there, so there's not a lot of companies interested in making steel sights for it. So we're kind of in a tough spot right now. I either go factory and I'm very careful, mm-hmm. Or Dawson comes around and hooks us up. I don't know. We'll see.
CZ, why you do that? Why?
I know. I don't think it was. I think CZ USA pointed it out and said this isn't a good look. Maybe we should just keep it consistent steel. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but yeah, the CZs have been really good for me. They're reliable. I've always liked double single. I started the Marine Corps on a Beretta, so it's it's probably not ideal for most beginners, and I do think striker fire is probably the future. And as they clean up some of the, I felt like a Bruce Gray Sig Sauer striker fire. I have pulled one of those and it was almost as clean and nice as my Shadow 2 tuned up. Mm-hmm. That's pretty impressive for a striker fire. So if you have a Sig, check out Bruce. I'm not sponsored by him, but I will tell you, I had an X5 worked over by Bruce, and that trigger was amazing.
Mm-hmm. I definitely do hear that when everyone's go get
he's a mad magician.
Mm-hmm. And he supports the shooting sports, which is always a nice thing too.
He does. Yeah. If I ever went to a striker fire, it'd probably be the X5 with his triggers. It's a long wait and it's not cheap, but you get what you pay for. I mean, you'll know. I haven't seen any other X5s or SIGs with a nicer trigger pull than that.
You mentioned you're going to probably primarily switch to carry optics after the World Shoot.
Correct.
What are your predictions? Do you think we're going to have a World Shoot this year?
So I'm kind of hopeful. I've reached out to a couple of the Europeans that I know to see if there's any rumblings of what's going on. You know, what from what I know, and I don't speak. This isn't necessarily truth, but what I know is IPSC wants to hold the World Shoot. Obviously, right? They have sponsors lined up in Thailand. They built this beautiful range. I'm sure they're going to leverage the World Shoot to recoup some money from that. I'm sure they want the tourism. Right now, it's all hinging on COVID, right? And the restrictions. Last year, I think the country came down. They wanted a 14-day quarantine before we even compete. Then they want us to quarantine during the match in the hotel, so we could only be transported to the match and to the hotel. And nobody could, one, afford that, nor two, wanted to go to Thailand and have that experience, right? Mm-hmm. Also, a lot of countries were pulling out because their countries won't let them back into the country, so that there's challenges there, correct? Mm-hmm. So those things have to change. I don't think they can successfully pull off a match if there's a quarantine and if people can't enjoy Thailand and what it has to offer, the beautiful scenes and stuff. So now with that being said, I do travel around the world and I have seen those restrictions in place. Pretty extreme, around the world, but I am seeing them lighten up on my job. And we're starting to see that in the news too. So we have a few months. If I had to guess, IPSC's decision point probably has to be around June or July, given the lead times to kind of put things in motion, right? So we have a couple months, and I'm hoping with what I'm seeing in the news and stuff and the sentiment that, we're going to have to start learning to live with COVID, and we've learned how to, control it per se and focus on those that really are at risk. I'm hoping that by June, that IPSC feels Thailand will allow us to host a match with minimal restrictions. I would be up for, we have to be tested when we get there. I would be up for, you still have to use some, maybe vaccination statuses if you want to go out to eat in restaurants, but maybe not for the range. I think that would get a good showing. Mm-hmm. It would be a decent compromise. But if they start talking quarantine, vaccination or nothing, I think we're going to lose so many competitors that it's not going to be the World Shoot, even if they host it. So we'll see. I'm saying we have a better shot than last year, but I really don't know at this point. And no, I don't think anybody does. I think it's all hinging on COVID right now.
Right. Yeah, and anything at this point is still speculation since it's so early still in 2020.
The problem for me has been the ammo shortage. It's hard to stay at peak levels, and I've already taken a couple steps back from last year because I'm not shooting as much as I used to. So I'm saving up a lot of my ammo to be able to ramp up for the World Shoot. Mainly primers is my shortage, but so that kind of hurts because I've had to adjust my mindset. Like going into Puerto Rico, I didn't shoot a single round after Florida State, and before Florida State, I think I had one practice session. So that challenges you mentally because I'm not performing like I normally would. And I have to accept that. I have to recognize that that's not normal, but it's acceptable at this point because I need to pace out my ammo to be able to ramp up for World Shoot. So the lucky thing is last year I hated the fact that nationals for production was so early because again, I had to make a choice. I didn't want to ramp up for nationals and practice to the level I would be because I wanted to save it for World Shoot. So at least this year, if World Shoot's canceled around June or July, I could ramp up and have a really good national. So I'm kind of excited that changed. And now we have low cap or production at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So the beginning of the year, though, like I said, I'm just gonna have to accept I'm not going to be performing like I normally would. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. You can only augment dry fire so much.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there are some people who, unfortunately, all they do is dry fire, and then when the first rounds come off of the years, they're like, "Wait, this thing recoils."
Yeah.
But now you're saying you had to cut back due to ammo, which everyone has this year. It seems like unless you're have a stockpile or work at federal, for God's sakes. I don't know. I mean, what was your typical training schedule like prior to COVID?
Yeah, so I've had some ups and downs because of some family things, but I had one good year of how I wanted to perform, and my standards are kind of built off what Ron told me they needed to be in, what I've also seen to hit some peak performance, and that is I like to shoot live fire 3 times a week, and I dry fire a little bit almost every day. That's kind of where I like to be at, and then on weekends, I like to go to a match every now and then, mainly because I still like to see my friends and connect with them. But because of family and work, I sometimes have to make a choice based on my time and which one's going to be more valuable for performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, like if I didn't have a major match this month, I would go to 1 or 2 locals, maybe even 3. If I have a match, I may do 1 local and then take my other 2 weekends and do in-depth practice sessions where I really grind it home. As Rob would say, or Epifania would say, I think I always say his last name wrong.
I botch it too. Don't feel bad.
I would get a lot of data collection, which means I would shoot like a lot of partials that I plan to see at that major. I would shoot a lot of positional shooting, like maybe leans. And I'd really want to hone in either confidence in those areas and data collection, what I can perform and what's my risk, right? That way I can do some gauging in a major match. I can say, okay, I know at 10 yards, I can push this partial because I have really good data points that are fresh in my head and I have high confidence. Or I know where I'm going to be taking risks and, 20% of the time this has gone bad, but I'm going to take a chance here because I can gain some stage points. And I haven't had that. So I've been shooting very, very conservatively on points. And, you take a little bit of a hit there in the hit factors when you do that. Because even I'm not going to take the risk. I'm not going to shoot to that level and in production when you're shooting minor because your match can get away from you very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I dropped. I think I only had like 2 deltas in Puerto Rico. I did have a couple mics. That's a different story. Bags and tuxedos don't do well with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Florida State, I think I shot that penalty free, and I think I only had maybe 1 delta. So that's because I think that's more successful if you don't have that data collection. Be a little bit more conservative and get your points first. Mm-hmm. And then I push where I can on my athleticism. And that's been a good model for me. But yeah, it's a struggle. I'm falling off on the hit factors because of the time, because I'm being too conservative on some partials and things like that. But that'll come. That's easy. You can easily clean that up. I mean, you give me a solid month or 2 of training, and I can clean that up. So I'm excited for the World Shoot because I'm excited to be the best version of myself there.
There you go. And then you've got plenty of time. It's not until Thanksgiving time, right? Or early December?
Yeah, it's actually, so I'll start, I have enough ammo to start ramping up before nationals, right? Mm-hmm. I can shoot a healthy dose of majors this year, get the mental game going. There's a lot of things to work on, but besides shooting and that, and, just getting your routine locked in, getting your mindset going, seeing how, work approaching stages with strategic mind. There's a lot of things I can achieve at the earlier majors, and then come before nationals, just start ramping it up all the way to World Shoot. And hopefully we have a couple of IPSC matches this year here.
Oh yeah, hopefully. I mean, you did shoot some, like the Caribbean Open is a USPSA what is that? It was weird. I saw the rule set was a little different.
Yeah, if I had to say, it's leaning more towards IPSC, but I actually think it was one of their home matches. So that what they did is they blended USPSA and IPSC rules to really accommodate their members there, mm-hmm. which I think fluctuate between both. They traveled to both, and so they wanted to make it easy when we talk about belt setups, round capacity, but it really had an IPSC flavor. The stage design there was far superior to test skills, in my opinion, and that falls more, in my opinion, in IPSC format. Mm-hmm. And planning size. The hit factors are much lower. There's less room for air. And I kind of like that. I like feeling that pressure. So that's why I'm hoping to get some IPSC matches here stateside, like the Extreme Handgun Championship and things like that, and the Pan American. we'll see if we can host them here this year. Again, contingent upon COVID restrictions and stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely the linchpin, and I mean, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. I mean, I can hope. I can knock on wood all day, but
I know
it's the unfortunate part, and it's probably very difficult for you in work with all your travels, and it's probably just
it is. I've probably been tested more than most people would like to be. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I remember in 1 week I got tested almost 9 times in 1 week of travel. So it's not fun.
No, that's not fun at all.
It's actually kind of sad that you get almost used to it.
Yeah.
Someone's shoving something down your nose to your throat. You almost start to get used to it. That's the sad part.
At this point, it'd just be like, someone's going to struggle. Just like, give it to me. I can do it my damn self.
Yeah. Every now and then they do. They let me do it myself, which is fine. But I remember I was in Saudi. Saudi was the worst. I had to go to a hotel room, and it was a Saudi national. And she just came in and just ran that thing down my throat. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, my eyes are crying, choking. I'm like, I'd rather have you waterboard me. Jesus.
That's saying something. Lord.
I know. It was rough. Shit. No mercy.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're talking about some IPSC matches. What other majors are you planning on hitting this year, if everything goes according to plan?
Yeah, my notes are on my phone. So I'm doing Area 3 because Hopkins is putting it on, and he's really putting a lot of time into stage design. And to me, that's what I value a lot these days. I want stages that really test me, challenge me, and push me. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited for that. Plus, I get to go there and see a bunch of friends. So I think that's going to be a really good match this year. So I think Hopkins wants to kill it and make it great. So I'm gonna ride that enthusiasm and go see that one. And then Area 8, I don't think I've missed an Area 8 match since I started. Obviously, I'm gonna do low cap nationals. I'm hoping to do the extreme match here and IPSC match and Pan American Handgun Championship. Those are 2. I think I'm signed up for 3 stateside, but those are 2 that make sense. I think one of them got pushed to January though. I gotta see. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do a handful of my area matches. So that's like Delmarva, Virginia State, Maryland State. I always do Ohio State because I'm from Ohio, so I like going to that one. I get to see family and friends afterwards. I'll do Mid-Atlantic. That's one of my other favorite matches every year. In the last 3 years, it's probably for me been match of the year. If out of the matches that I do, I always like nationals, but Mid-Atlantic, those guys up at Antalani, Anthony, Vicky, Duda, they just put a killer match together. The stages are USPSA centric, but they're the best of USPSA. So, stages that take weeks to build, that are just so much fun, like running up platforms and shooting in a prone position from like a roof and pendulum 8 target swingers, through no shoots. Like they always come up with what I call USPSA, not gimmicky. Mm-hmm. It's fair across the board, but very, very well planned and created stages. Something like you would see in the Philippines and things like that. So it's always one of my favorite matches. So I had to put a plug in for them because not that they need help filling it up, but that's a great match. I plan to go to North Coast, Battle of the North Coast. That's right near my house, and I really enjoyed it last year going there. Mm-hmm. And then I did Puerto Rico, I did Florida State. Planning to do Czech again, the Extreme Euro, and I may do Poland if Casey Reed goes because he's done that one a couple times alone, and it looks fun. And I've been to Poland, so I may try to go do that one. We got to see where it falls and what else is going on still.
Just when you see him, shake him down for primers first.
That's what I always every time. That's my favorite primer.
Yeah, well, everyone loves Federals, and
that was another reason getting back kind of mm-hmm. to the guns with the Tam Folio. I ran, I think a 13-pound mainspring in the hammer because I had to be IPSC legal, so mm-hmm. I didn't even push that down to 11 or 8.5. And I found that even with my 1050 crushing the primers really good, to get reliability, I had to use Federals, and I didn't like that. And what I thought from that, and I used the Titan hammer, a heavy hammer. So it was tuned up, but it wasn't even, I would say 50% to like gaming it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, so I was game. So my point is I could only get federals. And I think it was because of the hammer throw and double action. If you ever look at a Tamfo, it doesn't go back all the way. With a CZ, you almost get like a full cock. And I think you get more momentum on the hammer and therefore a better strike with the CZ. And what I've seen, I can use almost any primer with the CZ. Now it's never been a problem because I would use Federals anyways. But now in this era, trying to source primers, I'm glad I have CZs because I can run anything. You know, I'll still save probably my Federals for majors, but I can reliably go to practice with Winchester, CCCI, or even rifle primers, and I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
I just wanted to throw that out there because I forgot about that.
No, that's definitely a benefit, you know, reliability, even though when you can only find what you can find. Yeah. Next. Oh yes. Now you spoke a little bit about the Caribbean Open. Now, did we predict rain at all?
No, and it was the one time I always take my raincoat, even if it's supposed to be sunny, and I forgot my raincoat. So, that wasn't fun. But it was raining so hard, I don't even think it mattered. Yeah, it was bad. I posted some videos of the rivers and the drainage ended up somehow jumping. Like there was like this hill, and there were some stages on top of the hill, and all the rain would run down like a cement little channel. Well, like the mountain like jumped that, and there's this big flood washing cars out. It was kind of funny for a second there. I feel really bad because, you know, they put on a great match, and even with the rain, I enjoyed it. It was 20 stages, 2 days, lunch brought out to you. RO's enthusiasm and positivity was infectious. The match director, you could just see the passion. You know, honestly, like if I look back at all match directors, the only one that I could see that was a rival to her was Bill Duda. So really, really amazing match. And then the award ceremony was probably one of the best award ceremonies I've been to. So I can't speak for people I've been to world shoots. I've heard those are pretty good, but by far one of the best ceremonies. And it wasn't a crazy like major, but you know, they had a bar, they had a huge thing of food with like slow cooked pork and rice and sausage. Everyone could eat. I mean, you could have kept going back and back as much as you wanted. And then they had the podium and all the awards were already there. One thing that I liked in the beginning, they gave awards to all that staff and help, and they had like categories for them. And I thought that was really cool because one, when they presented the award, you got to know them a little bit. And you know, I thought they did a great job. And then the stage designs, which is honestly where I'm at, what I value. Maybe not everybody, but what I value is the stage designs were awesome. They're just so technical. Really enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm. That is pretty cool. Nothing that you saw was I guess I shouldn't put it that way, but there was nothing. I mean, everyone could see something to be improved, right? I mean, you can't change the weather. I mean, because you can't change the weather.
So yeah, honestly, they had shelters. You know, the only thing that I didn't see any steel not get knocked down. They use different types of steel than we do. They don't use hinge steel as much. Mm-hmm. They use like knockdown steel, which I tend to think is a little bit more reliable. I know you can't calibrate it, but it knocks down every single time, and it's fun to see things fly off things. The swingers were really reliable, so I can't complain. I did have one issue with my swinger, but that was just because the target staples started coming loose, and while I was engaging a swinger, that target flew off, so it had to be a reshoot because the holes that were presented with the no shoot were showing, and then they couldn't determine. So I was like, that's fine. So I do a reshoot. That went pretty quick. I'll come back to that because I haven't actually thought about it, because there's a lot of good. And you're right. I can always be critical about something, but I'm trying to think of something. It was, the parking was good. Like even the parking, like when I arrived, they were like, not because they had to, because the club made them, not because they were policing how fast we were coming in, just to make sure we could park efficiently and didn't have to figure it out on our own. They had people guiding you. So I had an entry booth. They said, "Hey, welcome to the Puerto Rican, championship. Are you here to shoot?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "All right, follow that guy over there. He'll flag you." And it was like you're going to like a major event, like at FedEx Field or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally went right into my parking spot, popped the trunk, and I was going. So like it was just the amount of details. We could talk at lengths about it, and I do probably want to get on a show and talk about how well they did, because I look at it as learning opportunities, right? When you see that and you experience it, put that in your bucket. Somebody put time into it, take it as a moment to try to capture it, learn from it, and implement it into your matches. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to think about something that probably went wrong. The only thing right now that comes off the head is our food we jumped bays because another squad had to reshoot. So there was a little delay, and our food went to a stage at first for lunchtime, which we didn't really even notice at first. But then they got it to us. So we had to kind of eat while we were starting to shoot again. Mm-hmm. That was literally the only thing I can think of. But they brought us lunch. So how can you complain, right?
Yeah, you can't complain at all. They brought it to you.
I know it was a little late.
Dry
Who cares?
A little bit. I mean,
yeah.
They
managed I'm actually more impressed that they managed the rain. Oh, here's one thing. I saw a lot of inconsistencies with bags. Now, again, I'm nitpicking. Mm-hmm. So like one stage would have the bag on, the other stage right next to us wouldn't. So maybe some radio communications, but I think because of the rain, they were worried about so many other things to coordinate, like cars getting flooded and having to repark, that those little things took a little bit of a hit that probably would have been brushed up if they didn't have such major rain. So, but that was one thing I noticed, and there can be some disadvantages to that, if I had to shoot with bags and the other squads aren't, and it's not raining for any squad at that moment. So that was the only thing that I could think of right off the top of my head. So gotcha. I think I beat that one down.
Now, was everyone on your squad from the United States?
No, we had a good portion though. Mm-hmm. I think Mason was there, Kaylee Lane was there, Jared Fox was there, Simon was there. We had a good showing from the States, mm-hmm. but not everybody.
Oh, okay.
Which is how I like it, actually. I like shooting with a little bit of my friends and having that blend and get to meet new people, right? That's kind of the best equation, in my opinion. Every now and then, it's nice when you get a whole squad of your friends together, but it's nice meeting new people.
It definitely is. And I look forward to whenever I go to a match, you try to squad with somebody you don't know, or yep. Hopefully you get enough of your friends there, but you get enough new people to meet them and influence them in some way. Now, let's go back in time a little bit to Florida State, right? You came in behind Casey, if I'm correct.
I think there was two that got me, but you might be right. I think I came in third, fourth, something like that. I got to go back. That was a rough match for me for different reasons, mm-hmm. but really, really liked it. The interesting point there was I had to push it, try and edge out Shannon, and I had to take some risk at the end because mm-hmm. Shannon was leading me, and he didn't really leave a lot of holes, so I had to take some risk, and it paid off. And the interesting one was I had to take risk on the classifier, which was my last stage. I think I was down by a handful of points, and I said I have to have a stage win here, probably to beat Shannon. And it was a classifier that counts, and I'm close to getting GM. And I've been trying now. I've been focusing on it because I'm starting to get some sandbag flyers come by my house. So I'm trying to push it now. I just haven't shot a lot of classifiers. And I'm always finishing in the high 80s, which doesn't get it done, in major matches. So there was a lot of pressure. I was like, I nailed it. You know, I got all alphas. I had a 5-second plus time on that stage, and I think it was a stage win. So I got, you know, a little lucky. Could I run it with that kind of level of risk 10 out of 10 times and get the same results? Probably not. But that's what I'm talking about in these early stages. I'm computing that math and figuring out where I can push and where I need to. And it wasn't just in that one stage. I had to find little gaps in like the last 4 or 5 stages to push it, and edge it. And also on one stage, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to play it safe here because this doesn't play to my strengths. So now I got to push it on these two. So that's where I'm trying to really hone in how to take, you know, strategy to that level.
Gotcha. And it seems like you guys had a wonderful party after the match. Team Boneyard always throws the best parties. Where does the name came from? I have no idea. Is it an inside joke or something?
No. It kind of stems from how we disperse our cans of our beverage cans. You know, it ends up forming like this boneyard, and there's always one established very early on, and that's kind of how the team name I think got formed. But the crew's been traveling together for a long time, so the friendships are more important, right? The name to me reflects the friendships. So when someone says boneyard, I immediately have those friends pop up in my head. You know, we have a daily chat going. There's always humor. So at some point in the day, I'm going to laugh. You know, it's a good group. We haven't really taken, I think, the brand mainstream. Like, I don't think a lot of people know about it, but to us, you know, it means something, and it's fun.
And it's always interesting when Mason wins his national title and just screams boneyard and throws it on.
Yeah. That's what you have to do when you disperse the can in Team Boneyard. You gotta yell it out so everybody knows you're on to the next chapter of another can.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then the after party, that means that someone's got to pick them up, or do you just leave them for like the Airbnb? Be like,
you know, we owe a lot of appreciation to Luke Faust, one of the shooters. For one, he finds us always the best locations. 2, he makes sure that we're never banned from those locations so we can revisit them. And 3, he gets everybody in order to pitch in and make sure, you know, we take care of business, and keep the houses, you know, in tidy and stuff like that. So, you know, shout out to Luke. You know, he's our manager in that regard.
There you go. Everyone needs a manager.
Yeah, everybody does. Even
us middle of the road nobody shooters, we still need our we need a manager. Yeah.
He is probably the best Airbnb guy. He could probably start a business around it. He finds us some incredible properties. They're always fun.
That is pretty cool. Now, it's because we were talking earlier in the show, we were talking about how nationals was so early in the year in 2021, and now it's so late into 2022. Not necessarily that it's so late, but what's your opinion on it being with limited, open, and PCC?
Well, for me, it bothers me because I want to shoot against the best, right? It's really disheartening when I can't. So I'm probably not going to get a shoot against JJ. I'm probably not going to get to shoot against Mason. And I know that's trouble, but Mason's going to want to defend his title probably in limited, right? So that's how I see it. You know, some of the pros, it's probably a little bit easier for the staff. You know, they're not working as many matches throughout the year. And, you know, we see the same staff going out to these matches. So it kind of gives them a break, maybe. I haven't talked to a lot of staff, but I could see that being very valuable. And I think members should appreciate that, being it's a volunteer sport, you know. So if we can accommodate our staff here and there, you know, and do something like that, if it does truly help them out, then, you know, I would take the hit and not, you know, for 1 year. But you know, I talked to Todd Jarrett a little bit about that too. You know, and I'm thinking about the vision of the sport, and, you know, there's something to be said to get to shoot against the best shooters and see. And, you know, that's what always made single stack great, right? When they had the classic, it was in the beginning of the year. All the pros would shoot it because they all have their sponsors likely have a 1911 in inventory, right, to represent. And then they could switch to their primary divisions. And that's what always made single stack great. It was because everyone showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of younger shooters aspiring to be great shooters want to compete at that level and get to test and benchmark themselves against the bench shooters, just like me. You know, I want to benchmark myself against the Mason Lanes, the JJs, and the Jake Hetheringtons and so forth. So that's how I see it. But that's not everybody's going to have my perspective, you know.
So
I don't know.
So you'd much rather have every division or pairing of divisions have their own nationals, not necessarily one big nationals.
I would, you know, my own opinion, yes, because I feel like I get to compete against more shooters.
Mm-hmm.
If, you know, is that something I would run on as an Area 8 director on the board and voting on? No, because now my members' voice means more than mine, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what do the members want? You know, I would present a vision. I would say, hey, here's why I think doing it one way is best for the organization. And that would include insight from what the ROs wanted. That would include insight from what the you know, our best competitors wanted, and even our young competitors. And I would formulate a vision that met that and see how they wanted it. And whatever they wanted it, I would vote towards that way. It'd just be my job to engage with them and show them some kind of vision. And then see where the chips fall with my members, right? Or the members.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the one high side of having it all together is it does present some grandiose, right? You may not get to compete against all the great shooters, but you're going to probably have a bigger pool of great shooters there. You know, there's less slots for people. You know, I train shooters that just shoot production. They might have a hard time getting into the match now because there's less slots. So that's one disadvantage that I don't like as well. But I think that comes at the cost of ROs getting some time off, which they may need. You know, they might have been taxed last year jumping around to all these nationals. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'd have to investigate that more to look at it from an organizational perspective. But from my perspective, I want to shoot against the best. So I don't like it from that regard.
Fair enough. And I mean, everyone has entitled their opinion. And I mean, you did bring up some valid points, right? I mean, it's not always easy. I bet you can remember if you look back to 2013, 2014, we had handgun
14, I think was my first. Yeah.
We had handgun nationals. What was out in Vegas under Phil Strader. This is before my time, but this is the power of the internet going by. But we had one big nationals out in Vegas, and it was like, you know, you picked your division and you shot. That's what you shot. So, and you got to pick your poison. So everyone gets to pick. Well, we can decide. I mean, contracts are contracts, but hopefully the voice of the members gets their opinion, gets out there, and they listen.
Yeah, you know, the right method might be to switch it up every now and then. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I would really want to investigate it. I would first want to poll my membership. I would want to talk to the ROs and the staff that typically work these. I would want to get more inside information before I could formulate like a good vision to present, you know, and have chewed on by the members.
Mm-hmm. Now, since you started speaking about that, I do have, we can derail a little bit and talk. You announced your candidacy for next year, for 2023 Area 8 director.
Run next year, but it's not, I think doesn't take effect to 2024, right?
Right. Yeah. January. Yes.
Yeah.
So you're putting your candidacy out there to run against the current area director, Ted Murphy?
Ted Murphy. Yeah. He took it over, I think, when Maffei came out of his tour. So he's had a little bit longer tour than most area directors. Mm-hmm. I haven't talked to him too much. I tried to engage a little bit with him during the bylaws and stuff to share a member opinion, but I haven't talked too much about if he plans to run again or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I did get a few questions at least one question about your plans for Area 8. If you took office, what plans do you have in the first year? Any pushes or changes you'd like to make? And then this person kind of asked more about the area match as well.
Yeah, so good question. So the first thing I would run on would be to improve the engagement with the membership and really incite their feedback. And there's a couple ways you can do that. One, I would get out there very heavily and talk to people like you mentioned earlier, squad, go to a match and squad with different people. I would do the same thing even if all the board members got together for the match where we had, in person. I'd say I want to squad with different shooters. I want to learn about them. And I believe you can't fault members. I've heard some rhetoric that members aren't engaging with USPSA. So how are they supposed to know? I'm like, well, that's your job, and inspire that engagement, get out there, encourage it, make it easier to engage. So I like a lot. We have a lot of good match directors in Area 8. Mm-hmm. One of them is a really young match director, really trying to be innovative. And one of the things that Cy has done at Area 8, who has run the last couple years, is do a survey. And it's not a survey about what pouches you have and stuff. That's all great. I do like reading that and seeing which companies are succeeding, like GX products. Mm-hmm. But I think those surveys can be used to gauge your membership. I think we should have surveys asking questions about what the members want changed or don't want changed, where they see some visionary things, where they would like to see USPSA go. So I want to develop a platform for Area 8 so members have an easier way to engage and get their opinions heard and have that data collected and pulled. And I also want it transparent. So if you're an Area 8 member, you can log on and see what your members are saying, right? Not that I want you to jump on the bandwagon and just start agreeing and voting with what the majority of your members want, but you should be able to see kind of the direction Area 8 wants to go too. So I could see myself doing some kind of digital platform where I could have real-time polling on things. I would definitely leverage platforms like Instagram and do those polling and do quick little snapshots. I call them little Tiger Team assessments on quick things that come up in USPSA to get kind of some quick engagement. So really leverage the platforms that are out there. Area 8 would have a survey like it's been doing. That's not something I would invent. That's something I would encourage to continue doing that Cy started. I would also start doing some town halls. And the one discouraging thing that I've had, and I'm not faulting anyone, but I've tried to attend 2 board meetings, one virtual and one in person. And I didn't meet the 14-day timeline. And that's my fault. So I've now learned the format. I think the first one I did, it just was turned down. It was a virtual and they didn't feel like they had a way to dial me in or something like that, which is fine. They need to fix that in this day and age, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. The second one was the in-person. By the time I didn't really realize the board was all going to be there, I didn't do my investigation, right? But when I realized, I informed, say, hey, I can actually attend this. I saw no logical reason was given to me why I couldn't attend. I was there. Yes, it was late minute notice. I said I didn't want to speak. I wanted to observe. I wanted to see the format. I wanted to hear the discussions. And I wanted to be there in person and hear it firsthand. And the minutes don't really get it done. So this is a way I can get some useful insight and bring it back to some people that have been asking me questions. Mm-hmm. And I was denied. I'll tell you right now, as Area 8 director, I will make every opportunity to loosen those rules. So if members want to attend something, they can. Now I've heard discussions, well, what if the boardroom doesn't have enough room? I'm like, okay, when those challenges come up, then you start capping it out or something, or find other rooms. But I just haven't seen a strong effort to improve engagement and allow members to engage. And that's the first thing, because I believe members need to have a stronger voice because this is their organization. I want to change the perspective. As an Area 8 director, I'm going there not to represent myself. I'm going to represent my members and what they want. And I'm going to present to them visions based on the collective experience that I have for the last 7 years and the strategic mind I have with my current job. And I'm going to present them visions to get the ball rolling and then let them shape it to what they want. And if anything, I lose a voice because mine doesn't really matter anymore. If I wanted to have a stronger opinion, I would just chill back here on the sidelines as a member and start poking at issues I wanted done and be my one voice. Area 8 director, I'm now servicing my members and what they want. So that's a sacrifice I see it as, right? I'm sacrificing my time just because I want a healthy organization with good relationships, positivity, and I want to affect change for the future so my son can enjoy USPSA how I have for the first 7 years.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely
that's a big point. I'm really big on engagement, improving engagement, using modern technology, and not denying people and not being shy. I've heard some arguments saying, well, we can't be blunt if people are listening. Well, if you can't speak professionally and engage at a high level, then maybe you shouldn't be on the board, right? I have no fear of engaging and speaking on my membership. If I poll them and I gauge them and I come with what they want said in the board, I will influence and get that message across to the board in a professional manner, and I have nothing to hide. So the second thing is I kind of want to stabilize the rules. This is something Hopkins was talking about. I think that's been very hard on the membership with these ever-changing rules and things like that, and some of the manners. And I think USPSA has looked at that and admitted that some of these things have been done a little hastily, like the flashlight thing. So I think that might have already been, that demeanor has already been corrected a little bit. As far as your question about Area 8, there are things that I've liked happening at Area 8. Like I like the kind of IPSC format that they have gone to, or a small, medium, long course of fire. I would want to probably maybe support stage designs a little bit. Some of the things I've seen in Europe and in IPSC that really test some skills, I would like to try to bring some of that flavor in, and I would incite some of my friends that travel maybe more than I do to do that, to achieve it effectively. I have no doubt that I would be able to assist with any logistics. I pretty much handle a global mission right now for our senior military officials, right? I get people and products to places in short time frames all around this world. So I have no problem with the time management aspects, the teamwork, and the logistics that come behind running an area match. So I've already taken some steps to kind of get in to learn behind the scenes as of tonight. I met with one of our match directors and we walked through my home club, and we talked about things that the club owner wants done and some of the challenges he has and some of the visions he has for that club this year. And I'm going to engage with him throughout the year on those things. But I really think my professional skills will cross over into the Area 8 director as far as running the match. And we have great people. It's a team effort. I think as an Area 8 director, you're just one person. I think my job would be to form a team to really achieve a great Area 8 match. When you look at some of our past match directors like Sai and Duda, the talent is out there. We have to appreciate that talent, reward that talent, and leverage it where we can. So I would look to like someone like Duda for counseling. I don't have all the answers, and I don't propose to have all the answers. Duda has done a lot of successful matches, so why not talk to him? I'm sure he'd be willing to share a lot of that knowledge. So I have no problem forming up a team and drawing all that talent in to make sure the members in Area 8 get one of the best matches. One of the things I am concerned about, and I don't present to have a solution today, is how fast it's filling up. I want to find fair solutions for shooters at all levels, all skill levels. So deltas all the way to GMs, ladies all the way to military and law enforcement, and even staff. I want to find a fair solution that those that are really participating in this sport, really putting their heart into it, have a fair chance to get in. That someone that maybe has spent 2 days in USPSA, and I'm just throwing out a hypothetical, but I remember back in the day, my brother was a programmer, and he used to program back then in the 90s his computer to quick dial to get tickets. If you remember those times, that's kind of what we're getting to at Practice Score. It's like, who can fill out the registration form fastest? And that's not a healthy and fun model. And I see a lot of frustration. I've heard a lot of frustration with that. And the only solutions I've heard so far is, well, sponsor a match. Okay, so you got to pay to play now. That's not the right answer. So I want to find solutions. And one of the things I would do as Area 8 director is probably form a committee to tackle that, to find a healthy solution that maybe transcends Area 8 and something that other areas that are experiencing now having to manage 35,000 members without a significant majority of clubs coming up to back that membership, to find ways to make it healthier. Because I'll tell you, we can't keep working our staff and extending these matches, right? You know, when I started, I think major matches were Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now they're Thursday, and some are even starting on Wednesday. That's not fun for our staff and not healthy for the sport, especially if they're volunteering. So that's something I would form a committee to try to find a fair solution to address, because I don't really like the lottery system it's becoming of who can register fastest. And it's not getting any better, right? I think an Area 8 director needs to think 7 years ahead, right? So he can turn something over to his predecessor, not a problem, but it may be a solution that's in the making for your predecessor or something like that. But I got a lot of ideas. I'll announce a bigger platform. I'll put my words to paper. And I'll also not afraid to do Q&As. You know, I truly believe I'm not going to be able to please everybody. But I promise you, I will listen to everybody and I'll represent everybody the best I can.
And that's everything I think most of the members want, is to have someone that will listen to them and take their opinions back and put it to the board and be their voice. Like the area director should be their voice, because, you know, that's just how it should be. But from talking to Shadalov and Hempel, you got to be type fast dialing to any local match in Area 8. You want to go to Antalani or Shadowhawk, like, forget about, you better be like sitting there saved, ready to go.
It's a good problem to have, right? It really shows how far we've come and enthusiasm we have. I don't want to smother that enthusiasm. And I feel like we have to address that to keep it thriving. You know, I'll tell you, like, if you have a lot of these young competitors are just as serious as I am. Just because they're a Bravo or Alpha doesn't mean they're taking the sport any less serious, right? I train a bunch of competitors that are putting in more time than I am, that get me up when I don't want to dry fire and get me dry firing. So it's not an elitist thing or a GM thing, as I've heard being called. The competitive nature is across the board. And the moment we don't allow these people a fair chance to show that skill set and get to compete, then maybe they look to something else like pool or, you know, badminton. So my point is, people aren't going to put this kind of effort and time in and just go away. And then we're not a sport. We're a hobby. We're a social event. And I think there are social aspects that I love about this USPSA organization, but that's to me a byproduct of the sport and the community. I still think we're a sport first, and everybody, when they step up to that line and that buzzer goes off, they want to give their best effort.
So whatever level they are, they want to give their best effort.
Right. So I just want a fair solution that can handle that influx. And part of that is helping younger clubs come up, right? We just need more clubs. That's another. So we got to find creative ways. And I'd be excited to work with the board. I know they have committees on this and they have solutions in place, but we could probably be doing better. I talked to Todd Jarrett. We used to have a ton more clubs apparently in Virginia back when he started, because Todd Jarrett's been doing this forever. And you know, I asked him the simple question, why don't we? You know, and that question, sometimes you just got to ask a lot of questions to learn a little bit. And in asking those questions, it will start to shape solutions, right? You'll start to see what drove those problems, and therefore you can get to the root of them.
Definitely. And we got to get to those problems and figure out the solutions. I did get another listener question. This is from Matt Hempel himself. He asks, how does it feel to be the second best Matt in Area 8?
I know. I go by Nash because of him.
Yeah.
No, that guy's amazing. So that kind of segues into switching to carry optics, which we derailed a little bit. You know, and that gets back to what I said about nationals this year is I want to shoot against the best. And Matt Hempel's one of the best shooters in Area 8. You know, and he's shooting carry optics, and it's killing me that I can't go there and run and gun with him. Right. I want to push him, and I want him to push me. And I want both of us to be able to inspire shooters that are just getting into the sport. So that seems to be the direction the sport's going. Very excited to see Matt Hempel and at nationals do so well. I'm even more excited for this year. because I think he can do even better. And I think having an area 8 shooter in the top 10 is achievable, and I'm excited for him.
Yeah, he can definitely shred. He's switching platforms this year, but we're gonna see what he can do with some plastic fantastics and Slay down there in Alabama again. But you did go down to Carry Optics Nationals this year. You were hanging out with Strader and all them.
Yeah, I shot carry. I mean, all my friends are going to be there. It was a fun sport. I didn't shoot any carry optics, so I'm still looking at the dot. I haven't figured it out yet, but that's not an excuse. I don't even think Jake Hetherington's figured it out yet, and he's killing it with carry optics too. So I can't use that as an excuse. It's the same platform. I'm running CZs, so everything's the same. It's just I haven't learned the dot to be as fast as I want to be, and but there are moments where I'm like, wow, I can get away with this. I can do this. And it's so much fun because I feel like I can play open without having to pay for the cost of it. And I think that's what appeals to a lot of people. You know, it's a little bit cheaper than open, and, you know, you can get into it and really run and gun. And it's truly a good race division. I think probably the third fastest division next to open and PCC, obviously. And yeah, I'm excited for it, but I had a good time. You know, I think they made some drastic improvements, the best they could, from listening to some feedback on the previous nationals that year. Whoever found the venue spot, hats off. I did have some boneyards waiting to get into the venue, but once we got in, the food was good. The atmosphere was really cool. I mean, I don't think it gets much cooler than having it in the middle of a racetrack. So, and I think that was a big adjustment from trying to do it at the range earlier. So, you know, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for perfection in USPSA. I'm looking for evolution, right? We see a problem, we fix it. We don't point fingers, make excuses. We just move on. Right. And that's a perfect example. They addressed some of the issues that they could. There was food issues, I think bathroom issues, rewards didn't feel grandiose, and they did what they could to fix it. So my hat's off to the leadership that made that happen for Carry Optics.
Which is great. And that, like, I can agree with you. As long as we're improving each time, it's all we can ask for, you know?
Yep.
The live streaming was cool. Everyone who didn't go, like myself, could watch shooters and feel like you're a part of the Nationals experience, and kind of solidify that community aspect that we do like about the sport.
Absolutely.
Well, Matt, we're getting near the end, but I have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, shoot away.
As you said, you're trying to help grow your son into the sport and probably into the Second Amendment. What is something to do you would think in your eyes that you can do to help the Second Amendment?
You know, I think we need to preach some gun safety. I think, you know, in USPSA, we're around guns all the time, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity because I see it in law enforcement. But, you know, far too often I hear of situations where, you know, a father and a son are cleaning their guns. They didn't, you know, they got a little complacent, and a tragedy happened. So, you know, reflecting on my son, I'm very cognizant of locking up my guns, keeping my ammo separated, you know, following all the safety rules, you know, every single time. But I think we as a community need to be very safe, and be responsible, with our guns. And, you know, the problem is complacency can set in all too often, even with USPSA shooters. You know, not maybe on the range, but just be careful at home. And, you know, I'm always now thinking about teaching my son about gun safety first. Even at 2 years old, I'm teaching him. You know, he's learning things like how to flag. I'm teaching him not to touch a weapon without permission. I'm teaching him these things at such an early age, because if he goes to someone else's house and sees a gun, he's not curious. He knows how to respond and react to it. I can't, you know, it's easier now, maybe a little bit, but I can't be with him every single second And as anyone that has 2-year-olds knows, that in a couple seconds they can be from A to B very quickly. So I want to start teaching it at an early age, gun safety, and I want everybody to just be mindful of that. And also, with your expertise, if you see there's a lot of new gun owners coming into the market, they may not be USPSA shooters, but they may learn about you being a USPSA shooter, and they may come to you and seek your advice. And I encourage you to talk to them a little bit about gun safety. Make sure they have a safe place to store it. Make sure they know their safety rules. Make sure they know clearing procedures, and make sure they understand, things like flagging principles, and stuff like that. Because with these new shooters coming in, I'm very concerned that they're not getting that education. I see a lot of them going to concealed carry permits. I don't think we should have permits. We should just have the constitutional right to carry. Mm-hmm. But one of the good things about that is it typically is associated with training on the safety side. So I think USPSA, we have a responsibility to the community to share our safety standards with a lot of new shooters, whether they're in our sport or not. And because I think we all represent the community, right?
Oh yeah, and I definitely agree. Complacency is not something we, as a whole, should allow. Especially if they're a first time person at the match, right? And like they break one of our rules, we're gonna have to explain to them why they get to go home on their first match. Not in a dick way, but a proper way, because they got to learn. And everyone's we want to leave the range with as many bullet holes as we came there with, and that's none.
Yeah. I want to segue this a little bit onto an Area 8 director point, that I'll plug into there. That one of the things that I really, really want to achieve very quickly is get the RO level 1 training online. I want to teach RO safety fundamentals. I think in this day and age, we can have a system. I've heard some of the counter arguments from like Troy that there are some things you have to evaluate in person, and I totally agree. But why can't, if you're a certified RO, or maybe even raise the standard of CRO, and you and I are at a match, and I said, hey, I took my online test, my online training, I watched the videos, I need you to evaluate and sign off as a peer, and then submit that to Troy for me. Will you do that? And you say yes, then we go shoot the match together, and you watch me do all the functions, and you sign off as a validated RO or certified RO. Like, you could have some kind of model like that, but we need to make it easier, because in my view, in my vision, I want to get more people RO certified, because in the end, as you know, at locals, we have a lot of people being ROs that are not RO certified. And that presents safety hazards. I have seen it. I've seen it at clubs by me. We had a club where you started here and you did a circle and came back, and I had an RO follow me around that circle. And at one point, he was in front of my muzzle, and we had to say, stop, right? So I don't want to discourage him from being an RO. He wanted to step up and support the local match and help out, but he wasn't a certified RO. Why? We shouldn't have to wait months and months and have this big logistic, not big, but there's logistics to hold the courses now. It should be more easy to gain it. I want to do other things. I want to give incentives for life membership. If you take a life membership, we'll give you an RO certification for free. I just want to preach that safety in our organization and make becoming an RO. I want to be an RO. I plan to get it this year. One of our local clubs held one last year. And I was going to attend, but it was Mason's wedding, and I decided to go to Mason's wedding, and I now have my eyes on it. So now I think I'm going to host my own RO class just so I can get it and then offer it to others. So I am going to take the hosting approach now. But as an area director, I'm going to take it to the committee to try to find better solutions. And I'm not, in this modern age, having done a master's degree part online and other things, I don't accept that we can't bring at least a level 1 certification to give a good dent on safety measures to a bigger pool of members. There's no way. You could even have a requisite that's free to everyone. That'll at least give them 50% of the safety stuff, right? Free. You sign up, you're a good member in good standing. You can take this online. It's a prerequisite. It's, an hour online class. It will teach you the basics that will really preach safety. And then you come into an online course and you have to do an evaluation. So I'm still brainstorming solutions. And I plan, if I'm area director, bringing a committee together to help me bring a good idea to the board. Again, it's not going to be just me forming these ideas. I'm going to seek out that talent. I'm going to listen to members, and we're going to put an idea together that's not Matt Nash, that's Area 8's idea on the board. And then I'm going to charge the board and influence the board to bring it up and make it happen. But that's something I'm very passionate about, because I'm seeing these safety errors, and in the sport that we're doing, that's unacceptable. We have to make this training more readily available.
Oh, I definitely agree. I'm pushing to even get my CRO this year, because
Awesome.
I think that it's necessary. I think if you're, at least in my opinion, it's worth my time to be an RO. It's worth my time to be a CRO. Then I don't know about a range master quite yet, because that's a whole different level of ball game. But at least it's,
if you have a club that has a need, it's one thing. We have a lot of match directors that don't want to give it up, or range masters here that really enjoy doing it. So I think we're healthy there, but I'll follow you on that pursuit to get CRO certification as well. Even as a shooter, you learn a lot about the sport in doing it. That makes you probably compete at a higher level, because you understand the rules at a higher level. I think that'll help you. It might save you in a major match, or, because some things you as a competitor have to challenge and you might not know how, because you don't know about it. So I plan to do it not only to help out the sport and be a more effective RO, but when I'm at these locals and things, but also, like I said, I'm a life member. I'm not just thinking about the next 4 or 5 years, right? Right now, I'm trying to compete at a very high level, but 4 or 5 years or 6 years from now, when my son starts competing, we're probably going to be working matches so he can learn the community. I'm not going to be maybe competing at that high level anymore and putting in the daily time to compete there. So it's, I'm going to be competing in a different aspect, and my son and I will probably be giving back to the sport for a while. I see a lot of father and sons out there ROing, and I completely see myself doing that with my son in the future.
Well, that is fantastic to hear, and that's a really it puts light into the future, and I think we need to think about it past ourselves and just moving on to the next generation, because we need more JJ Ricazos, I guess, right? We need freaking assassins at 12.
My son is half Filipino, so watch out, JJ.
Oh snap, Matt!
Yeah,
throwing the heat now, but we got to pay the bills for the people who paid the bills. Well, we need to talk about your sponsors a little bit. You want to go through those?
Yeah, so I've been pretty consistent with the sponsors. My main sponsor has been with me for the longest, has been Immortal Arms. It's a great company here. They support the sport year after year, even at national level. It's a small business. I really like Mark that owns it, because he does a lot more for the sport and the community, because it's not all USPSA. He does stuff in the PRS world and stuff, that's very fascinating. But he is a mad magician with electronics and presses. Sells a lot of parts to get your presses up and running. If anyone goes to my Instagram, every now and then I highlight some of that press gold that I have with, things like snake eyes, and when my bullet falls off, the press can stop. And he just, my shell plate on my 1050 with better tolerances to get it running smoother. He sells all that stuff. My point is this: if you have a need in reloading or looking for a solution, just call Mark and he'll help you out. Another sponsor that has been with me for a long time is Red Stitch Tactical. They make some of the best steel. I call them the Cadillac of steel. So you get what you pay for. I like my guns, buy ones, cry ones. So, not that he's that crazy, but you're getting a superior product when you buy his steel. So I have steel at my home range here that just stays out in the weather in Virginia with the humidity, the rain, the snow, and it looks new year after year. I'll probably never have to get rid of it. Hunter HD Gold. Who doesn't know Brian? and
They
Hunter
live under
HCA
a rock.
support everyone. I'm really big on vision. I've probably done more studying on vision in this sport and my skills than anything else. We could talk about that, from the products I take to studying gamers, because they have some of the best vision as an athlete. So I studied what gamers do, what they eat, how they work their muscles in their eyes. I talked to Wansa Kim about vision and iron sights. Like, I'm really big on vision. So Brian hits home with that, because I'm a hunter as well. And I bow hunt. And anyone that knows anything about bow hunting, it's those early mornings and late nights. And his glasses just do what other glasses can't, right? They brighten up the scene. I would like to I haven't approached him yet, but I'll do it right now if he's listening, if he ends up listening to this. But I do want to work with him on something, because I shoot a red fiber. A lot of people shoot green. I shoot red. And I found that the Oakley glasses that were invented for, I think, the AMU team, with that purplish champagne color, or whatever you call it, really made my fiber pop while making the cardboard pop. I would like to get from gold to that color. He has the rubies. That's too red for me. That's a little too dark. So I want to find a way where we can take the red and the gold and find a happy medium, born a child out of it. And I want to work with him on that, because the best thing that Brian has going for him is the anti-reflection. And honestly, if anyone ever puts his glasses on and they see what anti-reflection is, meaning you don't see any of that movement, which distracts you in a match, you can never go back to anything else. So I just got to get the color for my needs right. And I'm hoping they'll be open to something like that. I don't know. He had gold for a while. He's had ruby, I think, for 2 years. Maybe in 2024, we can talk about it. I'll have to engage with them on it. And then my last sponsor has been Techwear. They kind of make my jerseys and support me and help me out. So I think, that's kind of my gamut. J&L Gunsmithing down in Chesapeake, Virginia, in my opinion, specializing in precision weapons and Tanfolio and CZs. He really taught me all the gunsmithing. Now I do all of it myself, but I used to go down there regularly and watch him work on my guns and learn from him. So he's like the Bruce Gray of the double actions, if you ask me. Now, obviously, these gunsmiths can work on anything, but J&L is good people. Jim down there, Jim Jones and company. So they've kind of just been with me. And if you think about it, they're all family. They're people I know. I know the Techwear team up north. I know Jim down south here in Virginia. I know Mark right next door. It's just family, and they support what I'm trying to achieve. I want to try and achieve a national title before my son gets deeply into the sport. And I want to try to go to at least 1 or 2 world shoots and see if I can do the top 16 and make a run for it. So those are kind of my goals, and that's a huge commitment to get there.
Yes, it is. And where can they find you on the internet?
So yeah, www.mnshooting.com or mnshooting. I have a Facebook and Instagram page.
Well, that's where you can find them, y'all. Oh, go ahead.
I forgot about GX products because I plugged them earlier.
I know. I'm wearing Leif's hat. It's I don't know. I like this hat.
So the Vice holster. Thank
you
one
for
of my
making
strengths
me
are
find
low.
it, though.
What's that?
I found GX via your video. A couple years ago now?
Oh yeah, I did put a good video out there. So I'm OCD. I'm sure I'm now engaging with anyone that's OCD out there. I don't name names because I like everyone that supports the community, and I appreciate all companies. So I'm not going to name names, but I got a couple holsters, and one holster I spent a lot of money on, didn't make it through my first season of wear and tear. Second holster, it was formed wrong and cockeyed, and it just bugged me. I tried to work it out with the boss hanger and readjust it, but it was more the cant, and it was bugging the heck out of me because my index points on my hand weren't right when I was drawing. And I found Leif at a match, shot on a stage with him, and I said, "Hey, that's an interesting holster. Did you make that?" And he told me, and I told him the things that I've had. I said, "I haven't had a holster get through one season, and when they when companies mold these, it's hit or miss. And I'm OCD. A lot of people probably don't even care. I do. He's like, I got you. I'm all about quality right now. I got you. I was like, okay. And then he told me about the vise, and the vise is important to me because I like a consistent pull. And with the screw downs, I can never find that. And when you dry fire as much, I can feel those differences, you know. So I used to even do 1 rotation, 2, didn't work. So with the vise, you open it and close it, and I have a video on it. And I can lock it down, and when I unlock it, it's right back to the same tension that I had on the last stage. You put all that together, and then he sent me a holster. I'm like, he nailed it. I'm OCD, and I'm like, this thing is perfect. And I challenged him. I said, look, I can't go on there and say this is perfect if you just made me a perfect one. He's like, Matt, I all about quality. My lead times will grow based on my output. I will not sacrifice quality. And I said, I'd rather wait 3 months for perfection than to have to get something and not be perfect and learn to deal with it. So that's just me. Maybe some customers aren't like that. So we've had a great relationship, and I think he's had that model ever since. He will not sacrifice quality for lead times improvement. Maybe he gets to a point one day he can hire someone, but in his experience, it's hard to find people that are as OCD as him and will hand make these to his level. And it's almost more efficient for him just to try to manage it. So he's got some challenges there, but because it's a handmade product, right? It's the craftsmanship, American craftsmanship. So I appreciate Leif. And you know, I'll tell you a cool story about Leif really quick. I was challenged with primers when this first COVID hit because I was engrossed in work and I never even saw it happen. And I told Leif my problem, and he drove from Kentucky to me and dropped off a bunch of primers to me back in the day. Don't call Leif. He doesn't have all these primers now. But back in when this first started, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I always buy my allotment early in the spring because I have a store that always, I can just go buy 50,000 Federals. They always have it. And now they don't. I'm freaking out. And he's like, I can hold you over. What do you need? I was like, can you get me some? And he's like, yeah. And he drove here for something else and then segued over to me and dropped off. That's great friendship right there that he was willing to do it. And I still owe him to this day. I got to pay him back somehow one day. So he's good people. He's one of us. How can you not support a great product and someone who's one of us?
Exactly. And I like people ask me like, is the vise worth it? I'm like, yeah, just buy it with enough notice because it's going to be good. I mean,
I'm on my 3rd season with mine. I have 2. One has 2 hard seasons on it. And then I bought a second for my second belt. Actually, I think I have 3, but I had one for limited, but 2. So I'm on my 2 years and 2 years. I spent my first 5. I went through a blade tech. I went through, I just went through holsters. I think I can run this one probably for another 5. I don't even know. I'm curious because I look at it and I'm like, man, that's still in good condition.
Exactly.
And I'm hard on my gear. I mean, like I said, every day I'm pounding that gear.
I think the only way it's going to break is if you accidentally fell on it and put your full body weight on it.
I know, which I have fallen on it in the mud.
In the Caribbean.
So yeah, GX has always sponsored me. His bias, he did give me the holsters to test and R&D for him. So I'll put that plug in because I guess the social media community likes to know when you get stuff. But yeah, but I guarantee if you get it from Leif, you're not going to be disappointed.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. No, I met Leif back in July. I get to shoot with him here at the end of April. We're shooting a match together. So that'll be
exciting. Which
match? The mitten match up here in Michigan.
Ah, cool.
So he's coming up. He's going to be shooting, and it'll be a fun time.
But he's put on some good matches too, from what I heard. I don't think I've gotten to one of his matches, but he's put on a couple of matches. It's cool. He gave me a slot for Ohio State last year, and I told him, I was like, oh, I guess I got to win this one now, and it was my first major win.
There you go.
How cool is that? I won my first major win from a friend giving me a slot. That's kind of cool.
It is definitely kind of cool. Well, any last words you want to leave with the listeners, Matt?
No, I really appreciate having me on. I hope your channel continues to grow. I think it's cool. I want to say thank you for being patient with me. Kind of got lost track on time today wasn't very prompt. So my hat's off to you for working with me, and not being disgruntled. So thank you for that. And thank you for having me on. I look forward to watching your show throughout the year. And hopefully I can get your show out to other people so they can benefit from it and have fun with it.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and I hope so too. We're going to have you back on. Maybe we'll get you, if more people decide to run for Area 8, we'll get more than you on, and let you guys duke it out here and have a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be great if we get a lot of people running for Area 8, because all it's going to do is engage with the membership, right? So I'm encouraging a lot of people to run. Hope they understand the commitment and they get into it, because we should be inspiring people to run and be volunteers and get in and participate in any way they can. For some, they might be able to be a match director. For others, they can take the RO1 and be a great RO at a local match or even a major. I think Area 8 being an area director is different. It's more strategic. It's more visionary. It's more engagement. I don't think that associates too much with running matches. But yes, it's nice to bring that experience into it as well. But yeah, I'm excited to see for the elections coming up. I think it's going to be good for USPSA. I think the special elections are going to be good for USPSA, because members are going to be engaged and be able to shape it to how they want. So, but thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on. And to the listeners listening to it, thank you for checking out this next one. I appreciate all of you. Till next time, get out and do things. We'll see you on the next one.